I'm not going to
Hello,
be
everybody. My name is Port Cunningham. This is my astute, scholarly partner, Frank Oliver Beans.
partner.
All joking aside, we actually do like to discuss some.
This is a codependent relationship.
Absolutely, and there's something seriously wrong with that.
You ever heard that famous saying, it takes two to have an interview?
Yeah, and it takes two to have a codependent relationship. And, you know, we're the textbook example of that, I think.
I have my hair down today.
We're kind of like the Abbott Costello of, what is this, talk radio? What are we doing here?
I'm a victim and you're a perpetrator.
Oh, okay. Those are simple terms. So anyway,
yeah, this is your show, so you're asking me.
But
you ask me questions like, what are we doing?
I've got to figure out exactly the relationship between the interviewer and the interviewee. But I think I remember now. So this is going to be my first attempt. So let's.
Well, let me define it for you. Okay, if you're going to do an interview with somebody, then what you're doing is giving them a gift. It's not for you. It's not for you to hog all the fame. You're giving, yeah.
See, I don't like that part.
I know you don't, but I'm just saying this is the discipline of an interview. Is you are giving the one who's being interviewed a gift, and they can say stuff like, "Oh, this is my CD," or whatever it is that they're doing, you know, or this is my book, or this is my story, and that's a gift for them. They get all thrilled, and then you've done your good deed for the day, and the audience likes it and everything. But if you do it the way I do it, I talk all the time, and I don't let the interview person say anything, you know, or see what I'm saying? That's how it works.
I'm going to try to do it the textbook way. I'm going to try to actually say a few astute things here and there, which is, you know, odd in itself. Then I'm going to step back and let you actually say your story. We're going to try it the traditional way, see if that works. So anyway, as I said,
this is questions and answers. You know, that's good. Questions and answers is always good.
Well, what I wanted to do with Frank Oliver Beans, sometimes known as Mike Harrell. I don't know why anybody would call him that, but apparently some people
did. On my little thing here, there's a little thing down here, got my name on it. However, in the recording, it doesn't, because I already looked at that. The recording doesn't say my name on there. Only when I roll my mouse over there do I get my name on. And you heard name over here. It says Brian Bland and Michael Harrell. So
yeah, that's a hoax. Those are just aliases.
Being Frank Oliver Beans.
Those names are aliases.
It's a fraud.
It's a fraud. Yeah. So okay. So anyway, what I actually did want to talk to you about is, we've talked about this before, and you've touched on it before. You've said you've met maybe a handful of people that you would consider to be enlightened people.
Yeah.
And there was one we were actually discussing yesterday with Barbara Jean Lindsay that we were talking about for a little while. And I'd like to do just a few interviews with you, and, you know, like a banter back and forth, but which is exactly what you said I was not supposed to do. But, you know, but basically get your story and take a backseat, but, you know, but then we can kind of play off each other, the ideas or whatever. But tell me about the first enlightened guy you met. Give me a little background on what happened when you were introduced to the thought that there might be something more out there, and you met somebody that you thought, this guy is different. Yeah, well, of course. How could they not be?
You know, I'm making a joke, but you know, when I did a meditation, I still got it on here. little bump on top of your head. And if you do a lot of meditation, that thing grows. And it got to be as big as my thumb. It was like having you could feel my thumb up there pushing through the top of my skull. Your skull actually grows when you do a lot of meditation. So you wanted to hear my story of the first enlightened man I ever met.
Yeah, and give us a little background of where you were at the time, just how it changed you, what happened afterwards. Yeah, because
Okay,
from
this
what you were saying, what you were
I was
saying
like a
yesterday was
child of the
amazing. Go ahead.
I was like a child of the '60s, and so I was born in 1950, so I was my teens and 20s in the '60s. So I did the usual recreational drugs and exploring and Ram Dass and the Beatles and the Who and all that stuff, all of the music and all that whole thing. So that was kind of basically where I was at. Kind of like I did a lot of fishing and skin diving, all this kind of stuff that you do in Florida. So I was kind of like a redneck hippie, I guess you could say, redneck hippie. More on the redneck side, and I'm not particularly conscious. But first, before I tell you about this meeting that I had in Coconut Grove, Florida, which is a suburb of Miami, Florida, uh, let me explain what sort of different levels of consciousness are in terms of gurus and enlightenment. The first level would be the knowledge of God, right? Now, there's all the people who go to church, and almost everybody has the feeling of that's a God. When people get in the spirit in a church, they feel that devotion, or they feel something for God. That's the knowledge of God, and it's clear to them that that's the God energy. And then the second level up from that is what's called God realization. And that is where you get initiated, or you do practice, and you do meditation. When you do meditation, you lift up your energy vibration. And then from time to time, if you do, and this takes years to do it, by the way, then you can see glimmers of light, or have your head start to begin to be filled with light. It usually doesn't, sometimes they call it samadhi and some other things, but it happens for like a little brief second. You experience the pure energy inside you, and the light comes on, and then it goes away, and then there's the bliss and all that kind of stuff that comes with it. That's God realization. So first there's the knowledge of God that almost everybody has. You can have that knowledge of God from walking in the woods, or from going to church, or from any number of things where you just know that there's what it is. And there's the God realization. That's where you realize that the God is within you, and that you can practice and raise your vibration. And the next level up from that is to be an enlightened person. A true enlightened person is somebody who has the light on. They can turn the light on and keep it on, or it stays on all the time. And that also has in levels, and one level is that it's just good for themselves, and then the next level is they can transfer that energy. That when they can transfer the energy of the knowledge of God and the enlightenment over onto you, that's a guru. Guru means darkness and light. The one who dispels the darkness and reveals the light, that's a guru. So the guru is actually a transference of that energy from the enlightened being to the God realized man. See? So when you talk about an enlightened man, that means that they have the light on them, inside them, either all the time, or they can reach that and stay and maintain that. So in their meditations, they're full of light. Or there are other ones that are like, they call them avatars, where the light comes in and stays like that. So I met one of these guys who was like that. So I'm just a regular person, not anything special. I didn't know that much about God. I didn't care anything about that kind of stuff. didn't know what God realization was, and I had no clue what enlightenment was. So I just hang out with this guy, and we were talking about different stuff, you know, you know, he was talking to me about this stuff, and I'm going, oh, that's pretty interesting. So, he said, yeah. He said, I became you know, enlightened. And I go, and I didn't know what that was, so I was asking what is enlightenment? You know, what does that mean? He said, then he told me the story about how he was living in this cabin in up in the mountains in Colorado, and because he knew from the time he was a child that he was going to become enlightened. He was going to become an enlightened being. He just knew that's what I mean. Obviously, this guy wasn't normal. He spent God knows how many lifetimes doing some kind of meditation or practices or something, or what, I don't know what, I don't know how you go about doing it. But anyway, he said he went out one day in his cabin in Colorado, and he was just walking down the hill, and this light came down from the sky and hit him on top of the head. And it was so strong that after a few minutes he just passed out. But his whole body basically turned to light. And then when he woke up from it, that light never went away. So from then on, for the rest of his life, he was an enlightened man. The light came on, the connection to source, that pure truth, consciousness, and bliss energy. True consciousness as bliss, and bliss is the true consciousness, is also light. So, and I'm sitting here right within like an arm's length of this guy for a whole afternoon, and I didn't feel anything that special. I thought it was like really kind of a cool. It's like meeting somebody who was like famous that you don't know, right? Oh, so I was just hanging out with him, and we were talking, and he was telling me different stories and stuff, and I ended up dropping him off at some friends of mine's house, and that was it for the day. So it was basically maybe 3 or 4 hours, and I drove him around town because this guy didn't have anything. He was just kind of like an enlightened guy walking on the planet Earth, and I was driving him around in my car, and I had this I think it was like a 1967 or 65 Ford Galaxy 500. It was a 2-door, and it had the thing was like a tank, but the transmission was bad. It was bad on it, and I had that fixed. So anyway, I was driving around, and then that was, I think, on a Saturday, and then on Sunday, right? I didn't notice anything different about myself, but on Sunday, I was driving my car around, and the transmission just went, zoop, it went out. So would only drive in first gear, and these the old cars in the 60s basically just had 3 gears, first, second, third, you know, in reverse. So I limped that thing over to the transmission shop, and you know, and I was all worried about it because I said, hey, I got to go to school to Dade Junior College on Tuesday. And is there any way you can get it fixed between now and Tuesday? So the guy took it in, and that was Saturday. This was on Monday that I took it in because you know, the guy wasn't open until Monday. Then you know, he called me up at Monday night and said, you can come pick up your car. And then he started saying, you know, 30 years I've been rebuilding transmissions. 20 years I've been rebuilding transmissions. And I've never seen what happened to this transition. The transmission in your car was perfect when we gave it to you. And when we opened it up, every single seal in that transmission was just blown out. He said, I've never seen that happen. We put all new seals back in it, and you got basically a brand new transmission now. So I said, okay. And that was on Monday. And then on Tuesday, you know, I went to my class in the afternoon, and as I was driving to the junior college, it was maybe 7 or 8 miles away from my house, When I got within 2 miles of the college, the junior college, I started hearing voices, and the voices sounded like people talking. It's like a room full of people talking, but I couldn't hear really distinct. I couldn't hear what they were saying because they were all kind of talking all over themselves, and it sounded like a mumble, 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 blah, 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 blah. Right, and I'm going, wow, that's kind of wild. But I could hear it really clear. And so I'm driving closer to the school, and the voices are getting a little bit louder. And I roll down my windows, and I could tell it wasn't coming from outside. Roll up my windows, turn on and off the radio, see if it was coming from there, and it wasn't. So then I actually got to the school. The voices are a little bit louder, a little bit clearer. Parked in the student parking. Then I had to walk from one side of the building to the other. It was all classes on one side. It was like 6 or 7 classrooms on one side of the library. And you had to walk around the front of it to go off to another building where my other class was. And then when I turned around the corner and looked in the window of the whole front of the library was glass. I looked in the window, and what I saw was that people were reading books, and they were reading books, but they weren't talking. And yet I was hearing what they were reading. So they were talking in their head. And then so I could look over, I could dial into one person, and I could understand what he was saying, and I would dial into another person, and another person. I would hear them all the same, but you could tune into each one. I could hear what they were reading. So, they're reading in their head as they're sitting in the library. So the library wasn't making any sounds. It was all coming from their heads, from their mind to my mind. That was pretty cool. And, but that's when I said, oh, crap, because then I began to feel what was going on. And what was going on was this guy had put me in such a high energy. He put me in such a high energy space, just being next to that guy and talking to him, that his energy, his vibration blew out the transmission of my car and let me hear what people were thinking from 2 miles away. So then later on after my class, it was like lunchtime or something. I was supposed to meet some friends. So I go to meet my friends, and I remember I was in the hallway, and I said, "Oh, listen, man, I met this guy in Coconut Grove, and oh, look at it." And I go, "Oh, yeah, cool," because everybody was kind of like hippy dippy back then, hippy dippy rednecks. "Oh, yeah, that's cool, man. That's pretty amazing." And then I remember one thing I didn't say before was I was like about 60 feet away from him, and I could feel this energy inside me, right? And I said, "Here, let me give you a little zap and see if you can feel it." So I just kind of gave him a little zap of energy. And the guy said, "Oh, yeah, I felt that." Yeah. So I was like 60 feet away from him, and I gave him a little bit of a feeling, right?
You gave your friend the feeling.
I gave my friend a feeling. I just see if you could feel me, right? Because I could feel this energy swirling around me. So then as I walked up to him to start to talk, I was talking to him about this thing, and I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm hearing people talking from, so far away and all this kind of stuff, and talking in my head. It's like telepathy or something." And he was thought that was cool. But then as I got close to him, like about 6 feet away, I was looking at him, and this guy wasn't like a dear friend or anything. It was just like a casual friend at school. And what I saw was I started to see a slideshow of his life, and it started off with his birth, growing up, his parents, his stuff, like his first dog, and in his school, and then it passed where he was now, and it went on to where he got married, the kids that he had, then his business, and he growing old until he was like this real gray-haired old guy. I saw his whole full life, and this was also an effect of that higher vibration. It was this guy who was enlightened put me in a higher vibration so that I could tune into other people's thoughts and I could see their whole life. And that profoundly changed me, because from then on I understood that what I was doing was not the full extent of what human beings could be. the human being could be way, way, way more. Like I said, gave that example of if you're gonna, like I'm using this body is like a little Volkswagen car with bare bones, just a radio on it, you know. And all I ever used it for was going to school and going to the convenience store and get a Slurpee. You know what I mean? That's what I used this body for. But this other guy, he had a giant 747 that could fly, you know, as high as you want and as long as you want, anywhere you wanted in the world. And it was just like a magnificent, you know, what it is to be human was magnificent. You know what I mean? What the capabilities are like so beyond what we feel like in our normal life. It's just astounding. And yet, talking to the guy, I was talking to the guy for 4 hours, and he seemed fairly much like a normal guy. There was nothing, you know, he wasn't levitating, he wasn't glowing, he was just being a normal guy. But the vibrational frequency in that guy was what really changed my life. And it was from him that I thought, well, Jesus, if this guy can do it, and he's what you call enlightened, let me go around and check out if there's any more enlightened guys around, because like that was cool beans. You know what I mean? And then that set me on the path of like looking, always keeping my radar open for these enlightened guys, and that's why I've met 6 of them so far.
Okay, so I want to talk about this first guy a little bit first. Maybe we'll do one at a time because it'll bring up different subjects. You know, everything that you said that guy could do, like, and don't get me wrong, and you probably experienced it too. This guy's on a completely different level, just like the Sasquatch are on a completely different level than him. So I'm not trying to compare in that sense, but all of those things that you said that guy can do, I've kind of experienced on a very rudimentary level. I can see like the kindergarten beginnings of it, you know, like that life review thing, the energy kind of thing, the feeling, the energy. It's so he's just and you know and getting zapped and feeling that connection to source or whatever. But I think the difference with this fellow is that, you know, he got hit up with it and it was on for good. Guys like you and I and other people, we've maybe just had a taste of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have had a taste of it.
But even that,
this is pretty dramatic to happen in one weekend, a couple of days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's dramatic for us too, because once you've had a taste of it, then you're trying to, then you're searching from that point on. Because once you know that we're all one and all connected, and you feel that, and you get that download, and you feel it, you know, you just change from that point on. So it's this fellow's obviously lived, you know, been at a few rodeos where he's been very close to where he is before, you know, and so he's just further along his road. It's amazing.
Yeah, he was a God realized man for many lifetimes until he became enlightened, and enlightened means you don't go back. So, and that's a pretty high state. And you know, like I did meditation for. Later, I found my own guru who could initiate me into that energy, and then I did a lot of meditation. I did like 13 years of meditation, and I was never able to be anchored in the light like that guy. The most I ever got out of 13 years was maybe 4 or 5 times where the light came on, and it was like, oh, cool, you know. Then it went away, but still. And I don't know how many lifetimes you'd have to do it to where the light comes on and stays on. But I tell you, I like to preface, like sort of make some kind of a conclusion here, a comparison here. One of the reasons why I'm even telling this story, and it's an important story. One of the reasons why I'm even telling this story is it's my opinion that the Sasquatch people are the highest people on the planet. They're the highest beings on 2 legs. To be able to make that statement, how can I make that statement? How can the average person make that statement? You can't unless you have something to compare it to, and you'd have to compare it to the other enlightened people that you've met or that you've ever heard of. right?
Mhm.
The Christ figures, the Buddha figures, the yogis, the sadhus, the gurus, the living perfect masters, right? How can I say that some of the Sasquatch elders are higher than the highest human beings that have ever walked on this planet? Some of them are. I don't know about all Sasquatch. I don't know about all of them, but the ones that are interfacing and acting with me, and I think the ones that are interacting with you, they're without question, they are above. They are above the capabilities of this human body.
Well, they're definitely above, you know, the guy that you mentioned, who is amazing. I mean, and probably the other five guys you mentioned. No, I'm not gonna, like, you know, people like Buddha and Christ and guys like that. Well, I'm not gonna make that statement with those guys. But I mean, but generally speaking, as a general rule, yeah, they are far above any human being for their understanding. You know, as far as like,
It's their energy. The energy,
yeah,
they're locked in. They're locked into a higher vibration. And
absolutely.
I'm not saying all of them are, but for sure there's enough of them. Like any of the Sasquatch who can go invisible, any of the Sasquatch who can mind speak, any of the Sasquatch who can look at you, get close to you, and review your whole life. All those guys are at the guru level, enlightened level, and above.
Right. No, I agree with that. Absolutely.
So my term for them is archangel class earth spirits. So there's levels of beings, right? In terms of humans, you can get up to enlightened masters, and then you start getting up to this to the angelic, and then all the way up to there's like actually four levels of angels. Like there's the first, second, third, and fourth order of emergence of angels. Then below that is the cherubs and seraphims. You can go all the way up to the angelic realm, and then above the angelic realm is the archangel realm.
Yeah.
So that's who I think these guys. That's who I think these guys are. And if it's not, and I really don't see how they could all be that, but for sure, their masters, the Sasquatch masters, the Sasquatch teachers, the Sasquatch leaders, the ancient ones, they are that, no question about it.
Far and away above their understanding.
What we can conceive of as being normal human beings, far from what we, maybe some of our masters and our Sat gurus, they can conceive of what's going on, but we can't. We don't have the vibrational frequency to reach where they are.
No.
And yet they play around, they make jokes, they're real simple. A lot of them don't teach with words, they don't interact. The thing is, this thing about mind speak and communication level, when you're an energy being, and you're primarily an energy being, then it is really low vibration to talk at all. To communicate. Mm-hmm. So I don't know about your interactions, but the interactions that I've had with my Sasquatch friend has been with no words. 100% of it has been no words. Only one word was spoken to me the whole time of my relationship with my Sasquatch friends. And the rest has been nonverbal, energetic, understandings, stuff like that, and they brought back memories and given me experiences and all kind of stuff, but not with words.
Oh, I've had words.
Words are on a kind of a lower vibrational frequency.
I have had words like mind speak or whatever, but normally it's like what you said, thought placement, or exactly as you described it.
Knowing.
Yeah, knowing. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So
let me tell you one other story. This is for the researchers out there who talk about eye shine and eye glow. One of the second or third, the second enlightened man that I ever met was this guy named Sri Chinmoy. And Sri Chinmoy, he was the guy who I was telling you about, who he was going to give a demonstration, going to give a talk, and it was at like a theater. This is like a sort of a big municipal theater where they have graduations and stuff. So it's pretty big, you know. It's bigger than like a movie theater. So he's on stage, and me and my friend are up there, sitting up in the balconies, you know, trying to see what this is all about. And we thought he was going to talk, but the guy never talked. So what they did is they brought down all of the lights in the theater, right? He was just sitting there like this, you know. Maybe he was sitting there like that. I don't remember, but he was just sitting there. They brought down all the lights, and then they put this real soft spotlight on him. So it's just like, basically it's like a little bit like candlelight. So even though it was dark, you could still see him, right? This guy, what's so funny?
You've told me this before, but I want to hear it again. Yeah, it's funny because no, it's I don't know. It's not funny, but it's just, I don't know. I just like the story. So.
Okay, so he's sitting on stage, and there's probably about maybe 200, 300 people. So where everybody's kind of scattered out. It wasn't like thousands. This guy's name was Sri Chinmoy, which means he didn't consider himself as a monk or whatever those kind of things are, but that was like a certain level of attainment that he had, Sri Chinmoy. Anyway, so what he did is he just scanned the whole theater real slowly, and sort of like looked at every single person in the face, you know, and so he was just, but first of all, he kind of sat there and cooked and got his energy up. And then since we were at the far, you know, I guess it was stage left. We were on the right side of the stage, but his left. And we were kind of up, so we were like the last ones that he saw. And when he looked past us and looked at me and my buddy, this guy had white blue light coming out of his eyes. It was like he had LEDs. It was like he had LEDs in there, and it was a soft, but it was very clear. And when you looked into his eyes, you could see that the light wasn't coming out of his eyes. That's not what it is. The light was inside him. The light was inside him and coming through his eyes. He was the light. And the reason why I wanted to say this is because there's a lot of people who have seen Sasquatch, you know, like if it's an eye reflection from when you put like a flashlight or something in a Sasquatch's eyes, you're gonna see red or some other kind of color, right? That's the eye reflection, and with a camera and a flash on the camera, they call it red eye, you know. That's a natural thing. You're seeing the light bounce off the back of somebody's eye. But when it comes out as a light or a different color light, like a blue or a green or something, or an orange light, you can actually see it. And there's people who report when Sasquatch are looking around that they actually light up a little area, you know. What that is a teaching. They're teaching those people, whether they don't know it or not, subconsciously. They're teaching the people that I am a light being. You are looking at the light of God. You know what I'm saying? When the light inside of us is the light of God. When it comes in and out your eyes, like this guy Sri Chinmoy, that's the light of God. That means that guy, he is in the light. He is in samadhi. He is in the bliss right then. That's what I mean. Because I tell you that even that first guy who did the mind speak and everything, that really changed me a lot. But it was this guy Sri Chinmoy looking at his light that sealed the deal for me. It was like, this guy has so much light that he's able to transmit that light through his body, you know. So the Sasquatch, a lot of stories of Sasquatch being able to do that.
Let me ask
And
you
people
something.
not knowing it. Well, eye shine, they talk about eye shine, oh, and it's eye glow and all that. And you hear people talk about it all the time. They have no idea that they're looking at when they look in the eye of a Sasquatch and he's giving light and the light comes out of his eyes like a real soft LED, you're looking at the light of God there.
I
You know
think
what I'm
you're right.
saying?
Absolutely.
There's no two ways about it.
No.
And then when you add that to them being able to go invisible and back to visible, or they know what you're going on in your head or what they're going on in your life, and they're playing games with you and they're being jovial and giving you love zaps. All those things are indications of a very, very, very high being.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. Yeah, like you said, like the highest gurus, other than maybe Christ, Buddha, and some of the, you know, people who have been here so many times, helping humanity, whatever. I mean, there may be a few of them like that, but other than that, there's really nobody on their level with the things that they can do. You know, from what I've experienced. So, how long did it? I wanted to ask you for this second guy. How long did it take for him to look everybody in the eye? How long did that process go on?
He first he sat on the stage for a good 12, 15 minutes. He was just doing nothing, and then we're going like, you know,
Okay.
we're in our head like, what's this guy all about? What is he going to talk? And you know, it was
That's
like 12 or 15 minutes, and then it was about another, because he scanned the whole stadium twice, right? Or
twice.
maybe, yeah. That was his demonstration. So he was sitting there for 15 or 20 minutes, and then it took like about maybe another 10 or 12 minutes for him to go back and forth, to go back and then back and forth again. So it was maybe 45 minutes altogether. And the thing was that he had a couple of devotees who were helping him, followers, but nobody really said anything. They didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. And when they finished, they just said, okay, that was it. And that was, you know, they turned on the lights, and it was like, but to me, see, that was like powerful, because it was like there was no word spoken. You had to figure out what you were seeing and what happened to you. You know, it's like nobody said there, oh, he's enlightened. See that light? None of that. It's like you're like with your job, and what did I just see? You know?
No, I was just laughing because, like, if it took 45 minutes or so for him to look you in the eye, I was just thinking people are like, hey man, for 44 minutes before that, what's he gonna do something? Was he gonna say something? Well, I mean, you must have been thinking, like, what's this cat all about? What's he doing? Right? Until you actually got that moment where you seen him look you in the eye, and then, oh, okay.
Oh, okay. There you go. This guy is just showing us. He's showing us graphically that he is sitting there. We are sitting in front of a person whose whole body is filled with God light, you know, with that true light, or I'm not really sure what you even call it. It is the light of life, and everybody has life inside them, has the light of life. When you amplify the light of life, then it glows.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
It is amazing. Life is amazing.
Well, do we have any more points on this? Because I did want to do a few, talk to you about a few of these guys, but we can leave it off with this for now. But do we want to make
Those are two most important ones. I mean, my own personal guru, I'm not going to talk about too much. He was basically above all these guys that I've ever met. Like my original my guru that I had. But
we can talk about him another time, maybe.
But my Sasquatch friend, teacher, he was just as high, and my guru wore the Krishna crown. That means in the terms of all the gurus and the sadhus and all the enlightenment on the planet, usually only one in every lifetime can wear the Krishna crown. And he did.
Wow.
It's sort of like the heavyweight title. But anyway, the Sasquatch that's friends with me, he did the same kind of a energy transference. When you go to receive the knowledge of God, it's sort of like, if you can imagine, pouring water, tap water, like into your head, but it's just pure energy. And that energy goes into your head and goes down into your body. And it's a certain frequency, it's a certain feeling. And that's what you meditate on. You meditate on that frequency that was brought. It's because we have all this energy inside of us. So there's heart energy, thought energy, all this kind of energy, life energy, all this kind of stuff. And it's really, we don't know what to meditate on inside of us. You know what I mean? It has to do with what keeps your heart pumping and what keeps your breath going. That's why everybody does breath work. But the energy that makes the breath move in and out, the energy that makes the heart move and pump, is that life force. When you connect to that life force, then you can make it grow by focus. It's just pure focus, and not even intention, because you can't really intend anything. It's sort of like you can't really intend the weather. It's just going to come when it comes.
Yeah. You know, that's interesting what you were saying about like it flowing in, the energy and whatever, because so many, so much collaborative stuff, you know, from experiences of people who have had these experiences share whatever. And, you know, like a lot of the stuff you said, I mean, I can relate to. Like even with these guru guys, like on a, like not on a permanent level, but just on a like a taste, you know, like a little, maybe a precursor or something somewhere down the road or many lives down the road. But anyway, a precursor of that kind of thing, right? But now what was I going to say? Forgot my point. Damn it. Gonna have to do some editing here.
You know, and I'm not putting down Christ or Buddha or anything like that, because Christ was that light. He was that light of life on earth. You know what I mean?
I know my point now.
I don't care,
Okay.
because I'm talking about something.
Yeah, but if I don't interrupt you, I'll forget it.
I don't care. I don't care. Well, forget it. No big deal.
Okay, go ahead.
So the point is because I've had that experience of what that life energy is all about. If I knew Christ was alive today, I would crawl on my hands and knees through a desert of glass to go see that guy. Okay?
Yeah.
Because I know what that means to be the master of light, to be the son of that light. You know, the light is the Father, and we are the child of that light. So, you know, the thing of he taught was, I and my Father are one, and I and my brother are one. That's also what the SASQUATCH teach. They teach we are all one, and there is no space. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, all the lessons, you know, that I've learned, I mean, they taught me about no time, no space, all one, all connected. It's a universal teaching.
Yeah.
The thing I was going to mention, what you were talking about is, yeah, that energy coming in, like, other than that love zap. I mean, I remember one time walking through the forest and I could literally feel the energy coming in with a big beam right in through the top of my head, and it was tickling, and it was like so obvious, like it was a big download of information. So
yeah, that. And if you had come from a culture where they value that, then you would have like walked a few places. You walk someplace where you could sit down and start meditating on that. Because when you meditate on that, that's when it grows and it cooks and it saturates, and you get it into your body and stuff. But we don't come from a culture that values that kind. They don't. We have no understanding about what that energy is, and when it happens, we just take it as a one-off kind of a thing. Oh wow, that was amazing, and oh, that touched my heart. But the thing is, if you sat down and locked into it, devoted all of your attention to it, focused on it, allowed it to happen, felt it, felt what was going on, felt where it was, what it was, that anchors it in. Because this stuff, the energy is, here's the thing, we have this life force in us already. So it is such a rare thing when you have an elevation of energy or a distinct, something distinctly happen to you, like your heart opens, or you get a download, or like you said, this energy comes to you. If we don't know that's like vitally important, that you just focus on that, because that is a gift, a grace, a blessing. I can't even talk enough about how fabulous it is to have those hints of what is beyond and within. You know what I mean? It's beyond, but it's within.
Well, you come out of those with a greater knowledge. It may not be like you just know more, you just know stuff, and it's and I also think that I've often thought too that it's kind of like they put this in your library or your memory bank or whatever, and then as you need some of this stuff, as you're moving forward, you can pull it out or whatever. It served for you when you need it, kind of. I've often kind of looked at it like that, but yeah, when you just have a general sense of a knowing, when something like that happens. Pretty profound stuff.
If you're a sensitive person, you can tell whether you're in your heart or not. When your head, well, most we're in our head, and it's like a little ping pong, little squirrels playing ping pong in your head, But then there are times when you drop down into your heart, and this is what the Sasquatch teach. This is what the Sasquatch energy is. Their energy is the heart energy, and when they are dropped down into their heart energy, and they amplify it until they turn their body into light, and then they can disappear. And this is like, in terms of yogic, it's really high up there. You know what I mean? There's a lot of enlightened men who can't do that. This is like a yogic skill that they have, that they turn their life force up in their heart so loudly, so brightly, that it saturates their whole body, and then they actually can disappear, or they can collapse their whole body into a ball of light. Like you said, you've seen them that way before, which is also a teaching. If you don't understand how high they are, it doesn't impact us. We just say a ball of light, and we go, oh, that's a wild thing. I've never seen that before. That's a ball of light. You don't realize that there's a whole being there that has turned themselves into light, and you're looking at like an act of God there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
People don't, that's what I'm saying. We're so far distant from the truth of who we are that when we see a light being as a ball of light, we don't recognize that as like a holy thing. We think that's just a phenomenon. We think, oh, well, that's a swamp gas or something, or that's some kind of electrical something going on in the woods. You don't think of it as a being that is so full of God's light that they can transform their whole energy into a ball of light and move around. You know what I mean? That's
right.
We got to stop looking at the Sasquatch as, they are physical, 100% physical. All the ones that people interact with, they're physical. And God and Jesus was physical. Buddha was physical, but that's not all he was. He had that God light inside of him, and he could go invisible, and the Sasquatch can go invisible. Yeah. So
yeah, the Sasquatch is so
evolved. To really understand Sasquatch, you have to be able to deal with the physical side of them and all the things that they do and the traits that all everybody's researching. But if you're not looking at their spiritual side, you completely miss the plot.
Yeah, the way they teach is phenomenal. Like, for instance, the way they started getting me thinking about time. First of all, they'll put the thought in your head, you know, like something going on with time. They manipulate time, and then they start giving you examples of it, kind of thing, you know. And one of the best ones was, I remember I came upon this glyph, and it was a really amazing looking glyph. I didn't understand the significance of it at the time, but looking back, I did. But anyway, I'm standing there, and then all of a sudden I look to my left, I look back, and it's completely changed. And then I came back shortly after that, and it was completely changed again. And what they were teaching me is, I figured out later on that there was one piece in the glyph that was the main piece that was changed, and it was almost like it was a hand of a clock. It was like at 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock or whatever, and then 11 o'clock or something. So it was like they were changing the hands of a time. And the other part of it was they changed it right in front of me to show me that the lesson that time does not exist, kind of thing. I put it together, right? You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's another teaching, you know, because once you go into that light, then that light is the source of everything, including time. And that's like hard for people to wrap their head around. Once you go into that, you can go forward and backward in time fairly easily.
I mean, I don't know.
That's a teaching, you know, without words, that was a teaching. So you have to think, how could they do it? And you come to the understanding, oh, that they went forward and backward in time.
Right.
And then you have to carry that even further. Who are they that can go forward and backward in time just to move a stick to teach you? Who are they? You know what I'm saying? What kind of a being does that? What kind of a being, you know what I'm saying? Unless you have some kind of an actual practical experience of what a real high human being is, how could you ever understand what's going on in front of you with divine energy, with divine truths being given to you?
Yeah,
You know?
they'll leave you something 5 years ago, knowing that when you look at it today, you'll look at it and say, "Oh my God, you have a different understanding." They already know you're gonna come to that understanding. You know what I mean? I've seen that so many times with my gloves or whatever. That speaks to that too.
What can you say about people like that? We're fortunate to have friends, to have them as friends. You know, the
Absolutely.
other thing, you and I talked about this, is that I'm not taking away from the people who are having a hard time with Sasquatch. That, you know, the Sasquatch messing with their livestock and banging on the windows and all these kind of things that people talk about. I'm not taking that away from anybody, and I'm not saying that all Sasquatch are high holy men. I'm not saying that. You know, there's others. Everybody who's having an experience of Sasquatch, that's real and true. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that Sasquatch are all good beings, or they're all pure. I'm not saying that either. Because I don't really know. All I do know is that some Sasquatch are really, really high beings. I'm talking about archangel class heart spirits, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And but I don't know, you know, just like human beings, like we have a guru class people on this planet, a teacher, enlightened teachers, and there's millions of them. You know, every country has their saints and sages and holy men, and but then the rest of the humanity is fussing and fighting and, you know, greed and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that applies to Sasquatch or not. I have no idea, because I don't know all Sasquatch.
Not all some Sasquatch look more ape-like, some look more human-like, some are more evolved, like the ancient ones or whatever. And plus, you know, because they are mostly human, I mean, the female mitochondrial, I believe, is the DNA, I think it's mitochondrial is the female. I'm not science type, but is all female. I mean, they're being human, or mostly human, with different experiences interacting with humans, and just, I mean, different regions, different circumstances, the way people interact with them. Some of them probably just don't want to interact with people, or they may not have the capabilities that some of them have to interact on the same level. So there's all that could come into play, right?
There's an infinite amount of things that can come into play.
I mean, just simple respect for them is one thing.
Up to and including that some of the Sasquatch could feel infringed upon, have resentment for. They want their woods back. There's all of that. Just think of it like in terms of the American Indians. There was a lot of peaceful Indians, and then there was a lot of Indians who were very aggressive. So, and I can't speak to any of that. I have to take everything that I hear from the people who have reports of Sasquatch as true. If somebody says they're terrified, then that's true for them. And if somebody says they got run out of their house or something, had to sell their house because of this, that's true for them. I'll just leave them and let that be on the table.
Yeah, and you know what? And I can't discredit that. And like I said, different clans, different tribes, they'll want to interact with people for different reasons, based on a bunch of different variables. But I wonder, like and I'm not saying that this is how it would be, and it may not be, but I suspect it would be. But if those people that were having those interactions with them, banging on their doors and doing some of this stuff, now I'm not talking about killing dogs and some of that violent stuff that is obviously way over the line, but why did they get there is another thing. But if when they were doing these initial things, if the person had have approached it like with wonderment from their heart, with acceptance and not fearing it, things would have developed probably much different.
I agree. There is the human reaction.
You know what I mean?
That's one thing.
Yeah, I mean,
what I would suggest, if anybody's having some real serious problems with Sasquatch or with dogmen, right? There's dogmen part of the play. That's part of what's going on. Dogmen are coming up now. If anybody has a problem with those, with that clan, or they're messing with their livestock or any kind of stuff, is to get yourself the best animal communicator, the best psychic that you can. Get a good, solid psychic who can connect to these beings, and then make a peace treaty. Because if not, it's going to turn out bad for the humans. But if you can make a peace treaty, like give them what they want, their space, or give them some respect, and make an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what you're saying is like the banging on the house, throwing rocks and stuff. They might just want agreements. They just want to be acknowledged. That could be part of it. Another part of it is they could have seen, they don't want you shooting your rifles around their children, or whatever. There's a lot of reasons that it could be. So I'm not trying to figure it all out. I don't think you can figure it out. But if you're having troubles, get yourself a real qualified psychic to go in there and talk to them and make an agreement. Because they just want to be treated like humans.
I'll give you an example that might probably speaks to this and might be part of the answer to it. Like I said, I was called to the woods, so they already wanted me to go up there. I got that call, go to the mountains, and then I started meeting all the people that connected me into them or whatever. But right from day one, I started having interactions with them, with my friend Randy Brisson, when we went out. But my point is that I think they test people's mettle. They test to see if you're going to be afraid or how you're going to react. And the reason I say that is, Randy told me that as well, and that happened to me too. Because the first major interaction that I ever had with him when Randy wasn't with me was I was looking at a big tree structure with these big trees that were all crossed up. There was about 6 of them, and it was a really beautiful Sasquatch structure, and I was just there looking at it to see if they had brought the piece and you know, or if they had just been pushed over or something. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm being polite and not talking over you.
For some reason, I've lost power for some reason.
And my mic is on. If you want me to talk like this, so I can talk into my mic. Can you hear me?
In a minute. You back?
No, back. I've always been
Oh,
here.
there we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can hear me, right? Well, go ahead with your story.
Okay. Well, I couldn't hear me. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I went back to see with this big structure if they had just pushed things over, if they had actually carried the pieces in, which was the case, that they had done some of them like that. But I was just actually investigating it because a friend of mine asked me to. I've never really been one to investigate. I just kind of, I don't know. I investigate them. I want to find out about them and what they have to teach more than, it's a fine line anyway. But I wouldn't call myself an investigator. But anyway, I was still there checking it out to see if they had done it. So where's your picture? Okay. So I'm there. Actually, I had my camera out, and I'm kind of bent over, looking down at one of the logs to see if it was placed there or pushed over or whatever. And all of a sudden, I got this feeling in my head, like I couldn't explain. And I guess I've had it many times since, but it was like that scan, or it was just a feeling that was foreign to me because I'd never had it to that point. But I just knew there's something going on in my head. That was odd and very distinct, and that was unusual, you know, that I had never experienced before. And then all of a sudden, I heard a big crash, like an audible crash, and it sounded like two semis colliding in the middle of the woods, like head on, like bang, crash, and that loud. I mean, as loud as the description. And I jumped right straight up in the air. My glasses flew off. You know, it was quite shocking when you hear like a head-on collision in the middle of the woods. You know, there's nobody around for miles. And so, but you know, I just said, that was funny, guys, and it didn't really stir me. I just kind of stood my ground. And you know, that was like testing my mettle. That they're always testing your fear level, I think, or whatever. So a lot of this stuff is, they'll introduce themselves to you, but they're going to see, are these people, what's their fear level? Can we even talk to them? Because if I had ran away and never come back, I don't know if that would have been the end of it. No, I'm not saying it would have been. I don't think so, but it would have impeded my progress. That's for sure.
I agree.
Yeah. So.
Well, you know, when I talk about the Sasquatch being as archangel earth spirits, right? You got to think that these archangels, you know, they're like they carry swords. They can lay the earth to waste. They can pestilence and fire and brimstone. That's also part of what it means. You know, just because somebody, you can't stereotype and say, oh, these are high beings, so they're going to be all kind and loving. No, they can, if they've got a reason to, they can lay your soul to waste. You know what I mean? Because, and there's a lot of people who've had that they've gotten mixed up with something going on, and they get PTSD and all this kind of stuff. And who knows? Maybe that's what they needed, or maybe it's just a bad hair day for the Sasquatch. I don't know. Well, the dogmen are doing the same kind of stuff. They will test you, and that's kind of like one of their roles that they do, is to test your fear factor. But if you don't react with fear, and then it opens the door for them to be friends. So they're either going to be friends with you, or they're going to be the top dog, and pee all over your property.
Right. No, there's something to that for sure. Because I mean, I experienced it, and Randy Brisson said that it's common. They test your metal for sure, and then another test was when I went and stayed out, 6 or 7 miles out in the bush, like all by myself all night, whatever, like just around a campfire. Like that was another step. But they don't really approach you in a state of fear, so, or at least only to a certain point. So there's all these little points in the road, whatever, of tests and that kind of thing. Well, that was very interesting. So it's nice talking to you, Frank Oliver. You're full of beans as usual. And we'll do it again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for having me on your test run.
See you later.